The first sign something was off wasn't the noise, it was the stillness. A Saturday afternoon on my farm usually meant birds chattering, horses snorting, wind brushing through the tall grass. Peace, earned and enjoyed. Then, like someone switched the world's volume to maximum, a shrill voice erupted across my pasture. "Cut that lock!" A metallic crack echoed as steel gave way. I looked up and saw a caravan rolling down my dirt driveway. 3 spotless SUVs with magnetic decals that read, Community Oversight Division. As if they were federal agents. Instead, it was the most dangerous kind of brigade. A suburban HOA squad with nothing to do and too much authority in their heads. They poured through my gate in reflective vests, sunglasses, and enough entitlement to power a small city. Cameras pointed in my direction as dust kicked up around their spotless shoes. They weren't here to talk. They came to invade. I set aside the wrench I'd been using to tune my tractor and strolled to the porch. Slow and steady. No panic. No rush. I'd seen storms come across these fields before. This one just happened to be wearing designer blazer and holding a clipboard. At the front of the pack stood Patricia Whitman, Maple Hollow, HOA president, acting like she was leading a military operation instead of stomping into a farmer's land. Face flushed, chin raised, eyes burning with that special kind of arrogance only HOA presidents seem born with. "This area is subject to an emergency compliance review," she announced, like she was reading from a law book she printed on her home office printer. "You will cooperate." I didn't step off my porch. Didn't argue. I just tilted my head and quietly replied, "Funny. Didn't know your neighborhood rules extended past the county line." She paused briefly, but ego is a powerful fuel. She gestured dramatically at her squad. "Document everything. He can't ignore regulations forever." Irony. Just behind my barn door, enjoying a cup of coffee at my kitchen table, sat Sheriff Daniel Hayes, my longtime friend in town, working quietly on an unrelated investigation. He had no idea a suburban rebellion was marching right toward him. For years, Pat had been determined to pull my farm under her HOA's thumb. Complaints about my horses smelling unprofessional, letters demanding I paint my barn neutral beige, even bogus fines she printed herself. Each attempt shot down by county law because my land has never been and will never be part of her precious subdivision. But Pat didn't believe in lines. Not property lines, not jurisdiction lines, not moral ones. Today, she didn't just cross my boundary. She cut through it, and she didn't know she was about to step into the one place her authority meant nothing, the sheriff's jurisdiction. Patricia Whitman didn't march. She floated across my yard like she owned the land under her heels. Her crew followed in perfect formation, clipboards out, cameras steady, radio chatter pretending they were tactical units instead of retirees with too much time and no hobbies. Per municipal, code 1 for a compliant subsection. She started reciting nonsense, and I swear I saw my rooster roll his eyes. "Pat," I interrupted, "there is no municipal code here. You crossed into county farmland." Her smile stretched tighter, polite, like poison. "Non-compliance won't be tolerated," I could have argued. I could have raised my voice. But if there's one thing I know about bullies, disguised as volunteers, it's this. They hate calm. So I just leaned on my porch post and sipped my coffee. Now, I wasn't worried, but I wasn't naive either. Pat wasn't the type to stop at letters or lectures. She'd gone from passive-aggressive to outright aggressive, and now she was trespassing with witnesses and bolt cutters. That's a leap even Olympic athletes would be jealous of. A few neighbors drifted toward the fence line, spectating like it was the season finale of Suburbia Gone Wild. Phones were out. Whispers spread. "Is she really doing this? Does she know she can't touch his land?" She brought Stan again. Poor man. Stan, her husband, looked like a hostage in a khaki polo, clutching the bolt cutters. Like they burned his hands. He mumbled something, but Pat waved him off like a queen dismissing a peasant. Then her eyes landed on my barn. "There," she said to her squad, "unauthorized agricultural structure. A barn. On a farm. Truly, the scandal of the century." She pointed. Inspect it. Stan hesitated. Honey, maybe. Do your job. He swallowed and walked toward my barn door while two of her officers filmed like they were about to uncover a drug lab instead of a stack of hay bales and feed buckets. Inside, Sheriff Hayes was finishing his coffee, completely unaware his morning quiet time was seconds away from becoming a viral moment. Last warning, I said. Turn around. Pat blinked like I'd spoken another language. We are authorized. No, I said. You're obsessed. Her crew grabbed tools. They positioned themselves at my barn door, and in that instant, everything slowed. The wind, the voices, the dust settling around their shoes, because I knew something she didn't. Behind that door was not only a lawman, it was a line she couldn't talk her way past. The bolt cutters lifted. Steel touched steel. Every neighbor leaned forward. Pat smirked, convinced power and entitlement were bulletproof. But she was about to learn what happens when fantasy slams into reality. The click of the bolt cutters tightening on my barn latch echoed like a countdown. Pat's crew looked ready to burst in like they were filming a reality show called HOA SWAT. Suburbia Justice? Cut it, she ordered. And then, before metal met metal, the barn door swung open from the inside. Silence swallowed the yard. Standing there, framed by dust and sunlight spilling through the rafters, was Sheriff Daniel Hayes, 6 foot plus, uniform crisp, badge, catching the light like a warning flare, coffee mug in hand. Expression flat. Authority unmistakable. Stan froze mid-snip. Pat's sunglasses slipped down her nose. One of her officers forgot to breathe. The sheriff scanned the situation once, slowly, the way only someone who already knows the truth looks at chaos. Morning, he said calmly. Someone want to explain why you're trying to force entry onto private property? Pat blinked fast, scrambling for words like someone searching for the right page in a script she didn't rehearse. We're conducting a lawful HOA inspection, she stammered. Hayes raised one eyebrow. On land you don't govern. This area is communities adjacent, she declared, inventing new legal territory on the spot. We have authority to ensure compliance. He took a sip of coffee like he was bracing himself from laughing. No, Mom. The only authority here is county law. And you've just crossed into my jurisdiction. Her crew deflated instantly. Radios lowered. Cameras dipped. Stan pretended to be fascinated by gravel. Pat's voice wavered. We believed there were violations. Believing and breaking in are two different things, he replied. And I just watched you cut a lock. He gestured toward the gate. Then at the bolt cutters. That's property damage and criminal trespass. One of her men whispered, panicked. Can we just leave? The sheriff didn't answer. He didn't need to. The weight of his badge did all the talking. Neighbors murmured, like a live audience watching karma walk across the stage. Phones recorded. Someone whispered, "Oh, this is going viral." Pat looked around for backup support. Anything, but her troops were suddenly civilians again, staring at their shoes, wishing they'd never volunteered for her crusade. For once, she wasn't in control. No clipboard language, no HOA bylaws, no dramatic tone policing could save her. I leaned against the porch rail, watching her world crack in real time. Pat, I said quietly, you should have stayed on your side of the fence. Her jaw clenched. Her empire wobbled. Her voice, normally sharp as barbed wire, came out thin. This isn't over. But oh, she had no idea how right she was, because when the sheriff lifted his radio and called for backup, that was just the beginning of her fall. The sheriff didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Authority doesn't shout. It settles on a place like gravity. Dispatch, he said into his radio, tone steady. I need 2 units at the Lane property. Trespassing and property damage. Pat's face drained so fast, it was like someone unplugged her confidence. Air clipboard, her symbol of control, shook slightly in her hand. Sheriff Hayes, she sputtered. You don't understand. We are protecting this neighborhood. He turned toward her slowly. From a farmer fixing his tractor, from horses eating grass, she swallowed. From someone who refuses to follow community guidance. I couldn't help it. I laughed. Not loud, not mocking, just one short breath of disbelief. You mean someone you don't control? I replied. Pat snapped toward me. Respect for authority is required to maintain order. Sheriff Hayes looked right at her. Ma'am, authority has rules. Boundaries. You crossed both. Behind us, the rumble of engines rolled down the road. County cruisers, dust clouds trailing behind them. You could feel the shift, like the wind changed direction and realized which side to blow on. 2 deputies stepped out, scanning the scene. They instantly understood trespassers with homemade authority badges and a farmer in work boots shaking his head. One deputy whispered to the other, HOA raid. Seriously, Stan, poor Stan, finally broke. I told her this was crazy. Premeditated. Pat whipped toward him. Stanley, do not undermine community leadership. The sheriff stepped forward, folding his arms. The only leadership here is mine, and you're done. One deputy started photographing the cut lock, tire ruts, and bolt cutters, like they were evidence at a burglary scene. Which, to be fair, they basically were. Pat tried one last time. This land impacts property values. The HOA has jurisdiction to protect. No, you don't, Hayes cut in. Your HOA ends at that fence post. Everything past it belongs to the county and this landowner. Her eyes flared like sparks hitting gasoline. You can't detain us. We're volunteers. Volunteers don't get to break into property any more than burglars do, he replied. Silenza, minus the neighbor, whispering, this is better than TV. Then Hayes gave a calm, final warning, each word heavy. Ma'am, step back and stay put. You're not going anywhere while we collect statements. For the first time since moving into Maple Hollow, Patricia Whitman didn't have a command to give. She had to listen. And that, for her, was the real punishment. Little did she know. The real disaster waiting for her wasn't handcuffs. It was truth. If you've never seen suburban power crumble in real time, let me tell you, it's quieter than you'd expect. No dramatic scream. No final lecture. Just a woman realizing the world isn't made of HOA, but Patricia stood stiff as a fence post while DeVries collected statements. Her team had scattered emotionally, turning vests inside out, wiping off fake badges, pretending they didn't know her. And, honestly, I almost felt bad for them. They signed up for Neighborhood Watch, not a criminal record. The sheriff finished giving instructions, then walked over to me. You all right? Ask it. Better than my gate, I said, holding up the busted lock like a trophy. I'll file this with the report. You're getting reimbursed. Pat spun toward him, desperate now. You don't get it? This man refuses compliance, refuses to respect community harmony. Community harmony. I raised a brow. Pat, you broke into a barn. She jabbed her clipboard into the air like it was a sword. Order must be maintained. Hayes rested a hand on his belt. Ma'am, order doesn't come from intimidation or trespassing. And there it was, the first crack in her armor, a tiny flicker of doubt behind all that righteous fire. Not remorse, not acceptance. Just the gut-punch realization she wasn't untouchable. The deputies finished, escorted her group back to their vehicles, and one by one, those SUVs rolled away slower now. Pride deflated like a balloon left in the sun too long. When they disappeared over the hill, the farm went quiet again. Not just quiet. Restored Hayes shook my hand. She faced charges. Trespass. Property damage. ... And that clip. I'm filing it. I nodded. Think she'll let it go now? He smirked. People like her don't let go. They unravel, and he was right. Because the next week, local news ran the footage, HOA attempted raid on farmer ends in sheriff standoff. Social media had a field day, memes, jokes, commentary, even a remix of Pat yelling about compliance over banjo music. And then the real blow landed. Turns out Pat had been doing more than harassing neighbors. County audit flagged unauthorized HOA spending, fake maintenance invoices, and emails demanding strict enforcement to justify budgets. Her crusade didn't expose me. It exposed her. When deputies arrived with a warrant, she didn't have an audience to preach to, just a driveway and a shattered illusion of power. Funny thing about fences, they don't just keep people out, they show who doesn't belong. Pat crossed mine and finally learned what boundaries mean. And me. I fixed the gate again, fed my horses, and enjoyed coffee on the porch. Like always, because peace doesn't come from fighting every fool that stomps your way. Sometimes peace comes from staying rooted while they sink themselves